Okay, my microphone was muted, so my apologies for that. Hello, how are you all doing on today? Welcome back. We are officially 8 weeks into the SOS 20-week live challenge. And if this is your first time joining us live, let me quickly explain why we are here. I spent over 40 years on the other side of the table, evaluating proposals, managing 143 billion in federal contracts and watching businesses win big or fall apart before they ever got started. And the pattern that kept showing up had nothing to do with talent. It was structure, systems, revenue strategy, systems, revenue strategy, readiness. The most capable businesses owners were the ones quietly struggling, not because they couldn't do the work, but because their businesses weren't built to hold the growth that they were chasing. So I'm doing something about it. And so what I did was decided to start this. We started this on the April 8th, going live at 2 p.m. every single Wednesday and for 20 weeks straight. One topic, one teaching moment, and one shift per week. And so today is week 8. And so let's get into it. So before we get into today's topic, let's ground in what is moving, because today's topic on chasing money is actually going to land differently once you see what is actually shifting underneath us. So from a regulatory policy perspective, the DFARS FOCI, the proposed rule we talked about a couple of weeks ago, now has a comment deadline, July the 6th, 2026. What started as a quiet announcement 2 weeks ago is now a fully scoped proposal rule. JD Supra and the National Law Review both published deep analysis last week, and here's what you need to know. This rule applies to any prime or subcontract at any tier performing on a DoD contract over $5 million. Now, commercial product and commercial service contracts are exempt unless a senior DoD official decides the contract poses a national security risk, in which case the exemption can be overridden. So DoD is projecting roughly 37,000 contractors will actually be impacted by this. 21,000 of them are small businesses. So comments close July the 6th. If you do business with the DoD, this is the most important rule on your desk right now. Two, the FAR 52-222-90 modification deadline is actually now 58 days away. July the 24th is the date by which agencies must work to modify existing contracts bilaterally to include the new DEI discrimination clause. Now, the National Law Review published guidance last week confirming what we have been tracking. If a contractor refuses the modifications, agencies are told to consider termination for convenience. Non-compliance is a Civil False Claims Act risk, which you have trouble damages and whistleblower exposure. So this is no longer hypothetical. The third thing, we've been tracking Senate Bill 4390 and the companion House Bill 8511, the Ending Discrimination in Government Contracting Act. They are still in committee. Pierre Lero Mazza's May 21st weekly update confirmed both bills remain under review. Now, the legal commentary is consistent. These bills would gut the statutory basis for the Women on Small Business and the 8A. So no vote yet, but the firms representing federal contractors are watching this closely enough that it appears in nearly every weekly update that I actually read. So call your representatives. And the fourth thing, and this is a new development, the DOJ settled with PayPal on May the 12th over a discriminatory small business investment program. PayPal had that program targeting Black and minority-owned businesses. The DOJ ruled that it was discriminatory. So PayPal will now go back and launch a race-neutral small business initiative, waiving processing fees on about $1 billion in transactions for veteran-owned businesses and businesses in farming, I think it's manufacturing and technology. So this matter because it signals where private sector enforcement is actually heading next. So if you have minority or women-owned criteria in any of your supplier, partner, or grant programs, even private ones, just go back and review them now. So I want you to drop a 1 in the chat if any of those 4 updates were new to you, because I want to see who is tracking this in real time. So now, here's why, I led with policy today before we got into the chasing money discussion, right? So let me describe a pattern I have watched repeat itself over decades. Business owner needs revenue. Business owner says yes to any opportunity that will bring in cash. Takes on work that is not quite in their lane. Discount their prices to close deals faster. Accept clients who are not a great fit because they need the invoice paid. And then 3 months later, they are exhausted, under-resourced, resentful, and still financially stressed, because chasing money does not build a business. It builds a cycle. And here's what is dangerous about chasing money right now, specifically in this regulatory environment. When you are operating from scarcity, you say yes to contracts you should not take. You miss a FOCI disclosure deadline. You sign a FAR 52-222-90 modification without reading it. You take a federal subcontract over $5 million without the compliance infrastructure to hold it. Scarcity does not just hurt your margins. In this environment, it puts your business at legal risk. So the real problem is when you are chasing money, you are operating from scarcity. And decisions made from scarcity are almost never your best decisions. So I have watched this happen in government contracting too. Contractors who took on, every possible bid, even ones they were not qualified for, even ones that did not fit, their capability, would stretch thin, underperform, and damage relationships that took years to build, all because they needed to hit a revenue number. So the businesses that grew consistently, they were the ones who were selected, who knew exactly what they were great at and only pursued that, who turned down work that did not fit, even when they needed the money, because, they just understood the cost of the wrong work, and there's a cost to it. And in 2026 specifically, the cost of the wrong work is higher than it has ever been. The wrong contract is not just a margin hit. It is a FOCI exposure. It is DEI compliance exposure. It is false claims act exposure. Selectivity is no longer option. So I want you to type in there, if you have taken on a client or project you knew was not right, just because, you needed the cash, put that in the comments. And the truth, money chase never comes consistently. Money is always positioned for returns. So there is a fundamental, difference between chasing revenue and building the conditions under which revenue finds you reliably. So positioning means getting, crystal clear on who you serve and who you serve the best. What problems you solve, what makes you the obvious choice, and then creating, that visibility around that clarity. Chasing means I'm taking on whatever's in front of me. Positioning means creating conditions where, the right thing come to you. And in this policy environment, positioning has a second meaning now. It means choosing your lane carefully. Because if you cannot meet the FOCI disclosure requirements, do not chase DoD contracts above $5 million. It is just that simple. If your business is not built to comply with FAR 52-222-90 documentation requirements, y'all don't bid on those vehicles yet. Get compliant, then bid. Position yourself into what you can deliver through excellence and compliance. Stop chasing what is glamorous if it does not fit your capacity. And here's how, to move from chasing to positioning. And I'm going to, apply each one to where we are in 2026. So here are 3 things. First, I want you to define your ideal client in revenue terms, not just demographics. not just who are they, but what they cost to serve. What do they cost you to serve? What do they pay? How long do they stay? How likely are they to refer? And one more question for this environment: what compliance load do they bring? Again, a $5 million DoD subcontract that triggers FOCI obligations is not the same revenue as a $5 million commercial contract. Some clients look great on paper and are a financial drain in practice. So you need to know which client profile is genuinely profitable and compliance compatible for your business. Stop chasing everyone, just chase the right profile. The second thing I want you to do is set a minimal engagement standard and hold it. Before you discount or say yes to a misaligned project, ask yourself, does this meet my minimal? Your minimal is not arbitrary. It is based on what you need to deliver excellent work, operate a sustainable business, and absorb the compliance and administrative costs of that engagement. Ask yourself that. And when you discount below it, you resent the client before the work even begins. When you compromise on fit, you deliver below standard. So you set that number, know your floor, and stop negotiating below it. And the last thing I want you to do is I want you to create a lead generation system that runs when you are not actively selling. And the reason you chase is because you have no reliable pipeline. So when no opportunities are coming in, you go out and just grab anything, right? So the fix is to build consistent inbound content that educates, relationships that mature, and referral systems that work in the background. Even one consistent source of qualified leads changes your entire negotiating posture. So you stop saying yes to the wrong things because you know the right things are coming. And in this environment, I'm telling you that posture is the difference between a business that grows through 2026 and a business that gets caught in a compliance failure trying to scale fast. So choose your poison. So what is the one thing in your business that, if it worked consistently, would eliminate most of your revenue anxiety? Drop it in the below in the chat because I'm curious. So positioning strategy, pricing discipline, lead generation structure. This is the work we do inside of the SOS because when you stop chasing and start positioning, everything changes. So your clients are better, your energy is better, and your revenue is better. And critically, your compliance posture is better right now. For those of you who need deeper strategic work on positioning your business, through the FOCI rule, the FAR clause, and the certification environment, the conversions actually is where we go past triage into a real plan. So position me in the comments if today's message or conversation hit home for you. What I would do is make sure that one, you are connected to the SOS community, and that you get the information for the conversions detail as they come out. And then I want you to drop brief if you want my weekly regulatory snapshot, so that you stop trying to track all of this yourself. So you were not built to chase, you were built to lead. And it's time, your business reflect that. We are 8 weeks in and we are building this together. And so that is it for today. And I will see you next Wednesday at the same time. And again, if you would like the weekly brief, what I am doing or have done is I have created a link, whereas then I'm going to post it in either of the various chats on social medias, where you'll be able to click this link. And then on a weekly basis, as I get the reports in, I'm going to feed them to that link. So that link will just be perpetual. You have it, and on a weekly basis, you'll get the update, and you don't need a new link. You just need to save that. Also, the link that I'm going to post, all of the previous updates, I started tracking, policy shifts and changes the latter part of March. And so everything that I've tracked thus far up until then on a weekly basis will be included in that particular link, so that you'll have access to new and old information, so that you can see what has occurred and what has changes. And then, of course, it's the from week to week, it still continue to track those things that are live and that affects us. So again, that's it for today, and I will see you next week. And I hope you have enjoyed what we talked about today. So, leave me some comments. Let me know what your thoughts are. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.